10 days to give a report. The probe was ordered as the Rift Valley PPO John Mbijiwe, who has been associated with the Joshua Waiganjo, turned the heat on his predecessor, Francis Munyambu. Mbijiwe says Waiganjo was introduced to him by Munyambu as the head of the police reservist in Rift Valley.
The case of Joshua Karanja Waiganjo has baffled many. How did Waiganjo, for instance, ride in a police chopper on a mission to Baragoi? He seemed to have enjoyed the company of senior police officers. Here, he is pictured with the Rift Valley PPO John Mbijiwe. But Mbijiwe will not take blame over the mystery of the fake police officers. He is turning the heat on his predecessor.
And my predecessor, Mr. Francis Munyambu, introduced one man, Mr. Waiganjo, to me as the head of Kenya Police Reservist in the Rift Valley province. Having been appointed by the Commissioner of Police as the appointing authority.
Mbijiwe says he worked with Waiganjo on that basis, but Waiganjo's family says they too were more than just workmates.
On 24th, the people was here, just here. December. He stayed here the whole day. We had a very big party here on 24th.
As the blame game ensues, Mbijiwe has his own interpretation of the situation.
I should be recommended, because it is during my tenure that any activity concerning this officer has been unearthed. I deserve a commendation and a credit.
Waiganjo has been in the police ranks for a decade. According to his family, Waiganjo was recruited as a police reservist in 2002, lost the job when the unit was disbanded by the then police commissioner Hussein Ali. His father says he not only got his job back, he was promoted when Matthew Itere took over the police force.
He has been working with the PPO Rift Valley at the combatant ASTU.
Those who worked under Waiganjo too have their story to tell.
Yani kazi yake ilikuwa kuwara askari tu. Mpaka sasa hivi anafanya askari anastakiwa. Kwa sababu inasemekana mbona mpiki mkubwa saluti. Mpaka we junior officers to complain a lot.
Waiganjo's case has raised several security-related questions. An investigations team has been set up to investigate the mystery with top cops lined up to testify on the scam. And many will be waiting for answers as to just how a man could infiltrate the police ranks, impersonate a deputy PPO, and masquerade as a senior police officer, all this while raining terror and fear on junior officers. Rita Tinina, KTN.
Well, to some politics now, and the Coalition for Reforms and Democracy, CODE, has announced that it will hold joint nominations throughout the country for its primaries, and all petitions arising from the exercise will be handled the following day. The alliance, bringing together ODM, Wiper and Ford Kenya, has ruled out zoning of areas where individual parties enjoy majority support, a move that is meant to accommodate all the parties that constitute the alliance. But as Aaron Ochieng reports, the move by the coalition to hold nominations at the last possible day can be interpreted as a means to avoid dealing with petitions.
In anticipation of a possible fallout at the nomination stage, the CODE Alliance is using a different approach compared to its competitors, where it announced today that it will conduct joint nominations for all elective posts, where all its affiliate parties will participate regardless of the number of aspirants. The CODE Alliance is ruling out zoning of areas and is stating that regardless of where a party feels it has a majority support, any other party in the coalition can participate.
The nominations shall be conducted jointly by Ford Kenya, ODM, Wiper Democratic Movement, Kenya, and all other partner parties that have signed the coalition agreement.
This will be a relief to aspirants from smaller parties in the coalition, who may have been locked out by the three major parties in the coalition, ODM, Wiper and Ford Kenya, had the zoning method been applied.
We are taking every precaution to ensure that this election is going to be like no other in terms of transparency.
The alliance also announced that the secret ballot will be the method used in the nomination, and grievances arising from the nomination will be handled by an appeals board the next day before issuance of nomination certificates.
After the elections are closed, we will pause for not less than 24 hours until we ensure that those people who are going to receive certificates have won squarely, they have won fairly.
But what is coming out from the decision is a possibility that not all petitions will be handled and cleared in a day, since the deadline for parties to finalize their nominations is the next day, the 18th of January. Questions can also be raised why both Jubilee and CORD chose the very last day to conduct their nominations and preferred not to provide ample time to handle nomination petitions.
TNA will hold its nominations on the 17th of January 2013. These nominations are going to be held at the polling station level across the country.
CORD is anticipating nomination headache, especially where two strong candidates are eyeing the same ticket. Nairobi governor's seat is a good example, where Margaret Wanjiru and Evans Kidero, together with Philip Kisia, are battling for the CORD ticket. Jim Nambaru, Ferdinand Waititu, and John Gakuo are also on the opposite end, eyeing the Jubilee ticket. The last general election saw big names in both ODM and PNU being favored and handed direct nominations, even with stiff competition at the grassroots that may have dislodged them from getting the party's ticket. Aaron Ochen, KTN, Saturday Night.
All right, and joining me in studio now to discuss this further is CORD Elections Board Chair and also the ODM Elections Board Chair, Franklin Bett. Thank you very much for making time this evening.
Thank you.
Now, let's address the elephant in the room. Holding the nominations on 17th, the same day as your other competition or the Alliance, Jubilee Alliance. Why the 17th? Why not 12th? Why not 10th? Why not today? Why not tomorrow? Why the 17th?
First of all, we picked that date before any other party. So that should be understood completely.
Why that day?
We picked on that date because of a strategic reason. One, we wanted to make sure, again, that we had also prepared ourselves fully. And we wanted to utilize the available time to the maximum. And that is why we went to 17th. And I would not be also shy to say that would also reduce on hoping.
Party hopping. So basically, the main reason is to make sure that your aspirants and participants on that day,
having our people on
the same day,
yes,
and they cannot be able to jump to the next party in case they're not satisfied with the process.
We have also realized in law, it is not allowed for one to participate in a nomination process of one party, finds himself or herself aggrieved, and then jump onto another party. The law doesn't allow.
But Mr. Bett, for those who would say, listen, we have a lot of time to plan for this, and you could have planned this and say, for a party that believes in reforms and democracy, you should have said, listen, there's a possibility that people not to be satisfied with the benefit of hindsight. People are not satisfied with the nominations generally across the board, that we give them time so that we are able to listen through those cases. It's going to be a countrywide exercise. Why didn't we do it earlier?
We have a window to listen to disputes from that date to the 21st. We are putting in place tribunals in the counties to listen to those appeals. In case a person is not satisfied with the situation at the county level, he has got another right to appeal to the national office.
Let's get into this joint nomination that you're going to hold with both ODM, Wiper, and Ford Kenya, all the parties that are being involved. How will that work, given that we hear that there's some zones that some parties say this is our stronghold, then we cannot have the other party come to this. How will that work?
We took that into account, that parties have got strongholds. We also took into account the Constitution. The Constitution, Article 27(5), says you cannot discriminate a person on various reasons. Like you cannot discriminate against them on age, you cannot discriminate them on race, on religion, all manner of aspects that you cannot discriminate a person on. If a person wishes to stand in Wiper, in Nyanza, it is that person's right. Hence our decision to say joint nomination. The moment you also decline joint nomination and you go into zoning, you are accepting bluntly that you are not a national party. That is why you want to be zoned into this pocket and into this pocket. It indicates a separatist behavior, a behavior that is not constitutional. It is contrary to our constitution as is promulgated 2010.
So how will that joint nomination work? Giving a good example of Nairobi, you have both Wiper, you have ODM, and you have Ford Kenya, among other small parties that are going to join. How will that work? How will you get that one final candidate?
I want to appreciate our principals who guided us after a long meeting yesterday. Our candidates will be on one ballot paper. That one ballot paper will be indicating candidate X, ODM, candidate Y, Wiper, candidate all the way down on that ballot paper. Whoever emerges with the majority on that ballot paper is our candidate, be it a candidate of ODM, Wiper, or Ford Kenya. That is our candidate as code.
Let's address the second and the final elephant in nominations, and the fact that a few people or a few members who would be close to the principals or to yourselves would get, or they say, you know, the opponents would say, these people have direct nominations. They can get certificates whenever they want. And with the benefit of hindsight, we see that elections, they are really chaotic. That places, they would have violence and there won't even be an election being held. And the next person you'd see with a certificate. How do you plan to sort that out? We've seen that.
James, we must be optimistic. We must not always be imagining there will be violence. That gives the impression that Kenyans are violent people. I believe otherwise. Kenyans, properly guided, are a peaceful people. But we have all the time lammed on them that nominations are violent, elections are violent. Why are we confessing violence every minute?
Not confessing violence, we are talking about benefit of hindsight. These are facts, Mheshimiwa.
But these are facts. But we believe in change.
True, we believe in change.
Yes.
But with the benefit of the hindsight helping us to get where we are right now, if that would be the case, how would you sort that out?
We are putting our act, our system in such a manner that we would want to obviate such situations.
Supposing
we are appealing to our members.
Mheshimiwa, just what they are supposing, point A would not have nominations for certain reasons, logistics, weather, or whatever reasons. What space do you have? What time would you have to hold nominations?
On those because we are saying our nomination will be starting from 8 a.m. to 5 o'clock. And 5 o'clock, we begin counting. After counting, the results are announced at the polling station, so that it is to the hearing of everybody, and then they are sent for tallying at the constituency and at the county tallying centers. And then from there, then they are pushed on to the headquarters. So we are doing everything. We are even involving security personnel. We are asking them to be in hand. We are asking our aspirants to sensitize the membership that violence is not an option in leadership. And we have been given a very clear mandate, and I can read it to you, that the Court Election Board has been mandated to expressly disqualify any candidate who engages in, sponsors, or in any way abates violence prior, during, or after the nomination exercise. That is the mandate we have been given. It is the mandate which is also in the purview of the IEBC. And we are happy that the Commissioner, the Inspector General of the Police is going to be with us all the way.
One final question for me, and that would also involve the Nairobi, the gubernatorial elections, and both of your members who want to aspire to be governors have raised different questions in terms of saying candidate A is being favored, candidate B is not being favored, or is not being wanted by the party. How would you address such kinds, and will you give that 30 seconds very clearly to talk to your aspirants in the country that will have peaceful and fair nominations?
Under my watch, no direct nomination. Under my watch. Be it in Nairobi, be it anywhere else. I will be the one signing the certificates. And I will not allow direct nominations.
So
that is undemocratic. I want the people to participate.
You'll take responsibility in case it goes...
I will take responsibility. I'm not shy to take responsibility. But I want the membership across that let us relax, and relax completely, and wait for our instructions and observe peace as is a requirement. Bad language, foul language, I want to say no to it. Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
We'll be watching.
Thank you.
Stay with me for a second. Now, in today's campaign roundup, calls on the youth to take up leadership positions dominated the rhetoric of the Jubilee and CORD teams as they combed various corners of the country ahead of the March 4th general election. Deputy Prime Minister Uhuru Kenyatta and his running mate, William Ruto, campaigned in Kuria, while the ODM Reloaded team took their roadshow to Dagoretti here in Nairobi as the Eagle Coalition traveled to Meru. Our reporter, Fred Omulo, filed this roundup for us.
Jubilee presidential candidate Uhuru Kenyatta took to the campaign trail with a spring in his step, launching a two-pronged thrust with his running mate Ruto into Kuria district, where they held separate rallies at Kehancha and Mabera before joining forces in Isebania and Kigonga. Calls for generational transition in leadership dominated the rhetoric of both politicians.
Serikali ambayo sisi tunataka kuiunda mwaka huu ni serikali ya vijana tukiungana na wakina mama na wazee wetu.
In Nairobi, the CORD team arrayed under ODM Reloaded stalwarts Ababu Namwamba and Millie Odhiambo traversed Kibera and Dagoretti constituencies, where they urged the youth to step up and assume leadership roles in the next election.
Tunataka Wakenya wote wakae pamoja kama kitu kimoja. Munakubali ujumbe huo?
Across the country in Eastern Province, the Eagle Coalition that brings together candidates Peter Kenneth and Raphael Tuju met with Prime Minister Raila Odinga at Kibiricha Boys Secondary School in Imentri Central Meru County for the funeral of Kirima Muna. Talk of security dominated the leaders' messages in the wake of recent events that have exposed the vulnerability of Kenyans to terrorism and unscrupulous security agencies.
In politics, they say there are no permanent friends or enemies. And for Eugene Wamalwa, that could be true. This Saboti Member of Parliament has in the last several weeks engaged in brief flirtations with various political leaders as he searched for a home. Yesterday, he joined hands with Musalia Mudavadi. Has Eugene finally settled down? Rita Tinina reports.
The year 2012 will go down on the political calendar as one in which politicians perfected the art of political courtship as they searched for that winning coalition. And one Eugene Ludovic Wamalwa has been there, done that. Eugene won the Saboti parliamentary seat on a Ford Kenya ticket under the PNU umbrella in 2007 and soon set his sights on the country's top job, announcing his presidential bid in the year 2010. He was later to align himself with the G7 Alliance, a group bringing together among other leaders Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto. After a vigorous round of campaigns, the group appeared to lose steam as leaders concentrated on individual campaigns. And that may have been the beginning of Eugene Wamalwa's search for a firm political footing. Eugene tried his political luck with Uhuru Kenyatta. He was even touted as Uhuru's possible running mate. When Uhuru launched the National Alliance, Eugene was by his side. But the Uhuru-Eugene union did not last long, and Eugene was going back home quite literally. He joined other leaders in efforts towards achieving the elusive Luhya unity. But that unity would still evade the leaders, even as Eugene formally quit the G7 Alliance.
No wonder we are being treated as junior partners in all the coalition arrangements in this country.
And Eugene was on the political road again. He signed a pre-election agreement with, among other parties, the Federal Party of Kenya, the National Vision Party and Shirikisho under the umbrella of Pambazuko Alliance. The alliance hit a rough patch with 3 parties pulling out. Eugene was still on the hunt. On the 6th of December last year, he met ODM leader Raila Odinga at the Serena Hotel in Nairobi, where they talked about coalition politics.
No, we were just having a cup of tea with the PM and his team, the CORD team, and consulting generally.
Just over 2 weeks later, he was with Peter Kenneth and Raphael Tuju's Eagles coalition discussing the possibility of forming what they termed as a third force. For Eugene, that third force perhaps did not come with the Eagles alliance, and he was looking elsewhere yet again. He held talks with Musalia Mudavadi.
Within the next few days, we will be unveiling the details of that agreement.
And the new year, it appears, brought with it renewed hope in the search for a political home for Eugene. He has now joined hands with Musalia Mudavadi's UDF and Gideon Moi's KANU. And for the man who has nearly gone full circle in the search for a firm political footing, Eugene is now at home in the Peace Coalition. Or is he? Rita Tinina, KTN.
All right, away from politics, and schools countrywide are expected to kick-start the first term on Monday. Parents are, however, concerned over the blatant hike in school fees by some schools, which have increased fees by more than 100%. Educationists want the Ministry of Education to investigate these claims. Here is KTN's Angel Katusia with that story.
This is a copy of school fees structure for the first term of the year 2013 from Baringo High School. Students in the school are expected to pay 48,000 shillings for the term. It is a structure that shocked many parents. The school fees for the school always estimated at 24,000 shillings per term. Baringo High School was among dozens of schools elevated by the Ministry of Education to a national school. Educationists are now raising concerns over the increase of the school fees just because the schools were elevated to national schools.
If it only means increase in fee structures, then that elevation is so irrelevant and we don't need it.
As a union, we don't support fully the idea of elevation of a school to a national level, making the school not to be accessible to the Kenyan parents and the Kenyan children.
In the case of Baringo, the school doubling almost the cost of every item and sometimes tripling. For instance, parents used to pay 100 shillings for health insurance. They are now expected to part with 300 shillings. The school claims it increased the fees to cater for the cost of upgrading facilities to those of national school. However, it is clear that the ministry is catering for that.
The Ministry of Education has given 25 million to each and every school that has been elevated. Why then would the fee be doubling? For example, a school where the annual fee was 24,000, how would it be 48,000, for example?
The principals who are our members should not move with speed to increase fees and phase out brilliant minds of this country. We are creating wastage of mind, and that's not acceptable. Those are not the tenets of education that we wanted.
Schools reopened for the 2013 school calendar on Monday, parents rushing to do last-minute shopping for their children. The increased fees in a majority of schools that were elevated will be a heavy burden to parents who are already complaining of increased cost of school items. The elevation of the schools increased the number of national schools from 48 to 78, a move that was expected to see additional students get admission to the schools and boost education standards. But the fee hike may just lock out dozens of students from poor backgrounds of their rightful school choices. Angel Katusia, KTN, Saturday night.
All right, now the leadership of the National Nurses Association now says Friday orders by the Industrial Court terming the ongoing nurses strike illegal were unconstitutional. The two unions say they were in court for a confirmation of compliance and not for orders. The representatives of the nurses claimed that their efforts to fight for the registration of a nurses union to represent nurses have been frustrated by the judiciary. The nurses say they will move to court on Monday to challenge the orders that declared their strike illegal.
Yes, you can. Why did you go on strike? process of arriving at that court order. When the orders that were issued by Honorable Justice, Honorable Lady Maureen, were issued under improper practices. They were issued under corrupt motives.
Wanataka wajue ndio saa hii watu wameamuka kusema wauguzi wako kwa mgomo na inastahili kuwa illegal. Kwa hivyo sisi tuko tayari, tunaendelea na mgomo na tungetaka tuelezewe, na ile vita tuko nayo hapa ni ile ya katiba mzee na katiba mpya.
Women in Mandera have come up with creative ways of defying the harsh weather conditions to turn fresh camel milk into other products with a longer shelf life. And our reporter Kasim Mohammed explains, the women say the new development liberates them from poverty.
Mention Mandera, and the picture that comes to the mind of many a Kenyan is that of a dry place. While this is a true environmental fact, residents of this area have learned to cope. This area is dominated mainly by pastoralist communities who depend almost entirely on their livestock for survival. One of the highly valued domestic animals is the camel. Its milk has become an income generator. At the Mandera market, women wait to buy and sell milk, but due to the short life of the milk that's attributed to the soaring temperatures, a group of 20 women are benefiting from an ingenious way to preserve it. Not a single cup goes to waste. Upon laying their hands on the jars of milk that are transported from the outskirts of Mandera, the women embark on the next task. They sell the milk while still fresh, and the remainder goes through a special procedure. This process, which takes a couple of minutes, will transform what will otherwise have been wasted milk into hard cash. Viola Sugut is a program manager at Practical Action, an NGO that works with the women.
We have also given them milk equipment, which include the milk pails, milk cans and refrigerators.
The women have opened their own shop where they sell the products they make, ranging from yogurt and ice cream.
Milk, they will come to Gari and we will buy to that Gari.
The women view their business venture as a uniting factor. Though many of the group members are illiterate and are assisted by their children to write, they all have bank accounts. The camel milk paved the way for these women to feel some sense of financial freedom. According to the NGO Practical Action, 81% of households in Mandera derive their sources of income from livestock and livestock byproducts. Most residents in this county endure crushing poverty, but with the newfound business opportunity, these women say they are milking the benefit of the Desert King. Kasim Mohammed, KTN Saturday Night.
All right, I'm informed that camel milk can actually be medicine if you just take it raw. Go figure that. Now, speaking of nature and tourists at Masai Mara are now breaking away from the traditional mode of safari to a more innovative one that brings them closer to nature. As KTN's Charity Kimani reports, it has all to do with horses.
It is the breathtaking views of wildlife and the wonderful culture of the Maasai that draws thousands of tourists to the Masai Mara each year.
The whole program requires a lot more management, more people with different skills.
The Masai Mara Reserve holds the largest lion population in the world, with millions of other animals migrating annually. Tourists visit the reserve to get a closer view of the big five in their natural habitat. To get around, tourists usually go on game drives designed to give you an opportunity to view the animals as they go about their daily activities. But a new popular way has emerged: horse riding.
The horses give you a much better feel of being in the bush, part of nature. It's a lovely way to move around without vehicle noise. The animals treat you as part of their gang, if you like. Yeah, it's because you can control it yourself. We can move into areas where you cannot take a vehicle. We can go into thick woodland where vehicles can't go. And for me, I've spent my life with horses, so I much prefer to ride.
A great concept that was started by a local tour company is a great way to experience the wilderness as you get closer to wildlife.
It's a very unique way of game. Yeah, well, you enjoy. You've got something psychologically settled. Yeah,
and then it gives you a different feel of the wild than the usual. We're used to the vehicles. Here you've got an animal with you. You've got to control the animal. You've got to like the other animals. So it's really a different feel.
Tourists in the area now prefer riding the horses in the wild, as they have one-on-one encounters with the animals. Costing 5,000 shillings for a full package, the tourists can get around with the horses for a period of 7 days.
But tomorrow morning,
we're going with the horses.
They are going with the horses, because it's important to experience both ways of exploring the bush.
Charity Kimani, KTN.
All right, residents of Kirinyaga have expressed fears of what they termed as re-emergence of the dreaded Mungiki sect, and shopkeepers in Nyeri town this morning found their shops broken into and goods of unknown value stolen. This and more in other news making headlines from the counties.
Central PC Kiplimo Rugut says the re-emergence of Mungiki sect is a threat to national security. The PC said anybody associating with the group would be arrested and charged in court, since the sect is outlawed. Residents of Nyeri and Kirinyaga have recently held demonstrations against Mungiki, said the sect was slowly re-emerging. And in Nyeri town, shopkeepers this morning woke up to a rude shock when they found their shops broken into and goods of unknown value stolen. In a seemingly well-organized operation carried out at night, the robbers used crude weapons to break the windows and grills of the doors, gaining access into the targeted business premises. Various groceries and M-Pesa shops were broken into. The Special Programs Ministry is asking Kenyans to cooperate with state officials who are currently assessing disaster-prone areas throughout the country and move to safer grounds if advised to. Speaking in Nyeri County, Minister Esther Murugi says that the current rains may extend to early next month and that the government is at an advanced stage to exchange land with those willing to move permanently to safe grounds.